Okay, so today we're going to be checking out Majd Al Sultan Black Intense by Asdaaf. Okay, so that's a roundabout way of saying this name. It's probably a very much incorrect way to pronounce this one. But essentially what we have is another Lattafa twist, another Lattafa kind of a sister company or knockoff brand or whatever you want to call it. Kind of like they've been doing here with Alhambra and things of the like. This is another one. Now on the bottle, it does not say Lattafa anywhere, as far as I can see. Not on the bottom, not on the front. But if you look at the box, we turn it around and we look at the back. Down at the bottom it says, distributed by Lattafa Perfumes, and then it's got, you know, Lattafa Perfumes, LLC, so, and just Lattafa.com. So again, another Lattafa clone here. And that's great, right? But what is it a clone of? Well, that's what we're going to be taking a look at today, because the word on the street is that this is a clone of Dolce & Gabbana The One Luminous Night. And so I'm going to break that down today. I'm going to tell you how close this one is to Luminous Night, and if I think it's going to be one you should and if I think it's going to be one worth checking out here in the future. So Fragrance By did get these in, I want to say around $30, maybe a little bit under, for a nice 100 ml eau de parfum, so pretty good price. The One Luminous Night has been very tough to get pretty much ever since it first came out, and the glowing reviews have really kind of compounded on that, and so just about every time this pops up into stock, it sells out immediately. Now, if you are subscribed to my mailing list and you watch my community tab often, more likely than not, you've probably gotten yourself a bottle of Luminous Night already, because every time it comes up in stock, I post about it. More so recently, it popped up for like 85 bucks, 100 ml, which is the killer price for it. And as you could probably imagine, it sold out quick, especially as soon as my email subscribers got a hold of it. So make sure you sign up to that mailing list down below. It's completely free, and that allows you to jump in on some rare stuff like this. But anyway, let's dive into the Lattafa. So Luminous Night itself is a very nice oriental, spicy, ambery nighttime scent. It has a really nice class and luxurious smell to it. And what you get out of this is this unique dates accord. You're getting some incense, some sandalwood, which is very commonly used in the One line, Royal Night, and even the original The One, and a lot of the flankers use that. And so it is playing on that, but it definitely does smell like an exclusive edition. You take a comparison between the One Eau de Parfum and the One Luminous Night, and there are some big differences there, and you can tell that Luminous Night is not a mainstream scent, hence why they put it into that exclusive edition line, and that's why it's going to be not nearly as widely distributed, hence why it's hard to pick up. That being said, for fragrance lovers, for enthusiasts, which is probably a lot of you guys watching this video, this is the type of thing, Luminous Night, that you go crazy for. And I have it on my hand here if you probably couldn't tell. So what about the Lattafa? How close is it? Well, I gotta say, off the opening, you do get some similarities, okay? Now, what I found to be different is that Luminous Night itself has a little bit more of like a different type of spiciness going on, and a lot of that's going to be coming from the incense mixing with some of the other woods going on in there and that sort of thing. And it smells great off the top. With the Lattafa, your spiciness is coming from a cardamom, that sort of thing, off the top. Smells really, really nice, and you do get some of the kind of woods coming into the base as well. Both of them do list bergamot in the top notes, and you don't really get a whole lot of that. These pretty much start off heavy and sweet right away. So we'll take a look at both note breakdowns here and compare. We'll start with the Lattafa. So this one we have cardamom and bergamot up top. We have lavender and dates in the mid, vanilla, patchouli, and amber in the base. Now over to Luminous Night, we have black pepper, basil, and bergamot up top, dates, sage, and geranium in the mid, amber, incense, and sandalwood in the base. So there are a few things that are different here. There's some discrepancies between the two. However, you do find that they kind of share a similar makeup. So we jump back over, the Lattafa is kind of giving off a lavender, and instead of a lavender and Luminous, you're getting kind of a sage and basil kind of aromatic mid to basically supplement that instead. And then what else do we have? The spiciness, instead of a black pepper like Luminous Night, we get a cardamom in the Lattafa. And then we do have some similarities here in the dry down kind of with the amber going on. And essentially there's no incense either in the Lattafa, but there is kind of a little bit of a smokiness, likely coming from the variety of patchouli that they're using here. And so again, you see some similarities. Now, note breakdown only goes so far, but what about actual scent? I would say that this is not a spot-on clone. It's not one of the closest clones out there, just talking the broad world of fragrance clones. Now, in terms of Luminous Night clones, I don't know of any other ones, okay? It's still a relatively new scent, and it just isn't super popular, so hopefully over time some more will start to trickle out. However, this one doesn't get as close to Luminous Night as we've seen with other clones. You know, for example, Al Haramain Detour Noir to Leighton. Those are very similar to each other. This one, however, doesn't quite get to that point. There are some differences. Another one being that Luminous Night has a little bit of an oud smell to it. You know, even though they don't list it off, you do get a little bit of that, and part of that lends to that kind of Middle Eastern exclusive edition smell that it gives off. So you do get some of that, whereas with the Lattafa clone, you're not really getting an oud. This one focuses more on the amber, which Luminous Night does use a lot, and it's a similar amber compound, but again, there are some differences here. And so ultimately, if I had to put a number on it, which I don't normally like to do, but I will for this case, I would say it's about 80% similar, somewhere around in that ballpark. So the way I kind of look at it is this would be a little bit more wearable compared to Luminous Night. I do think some people would struggle with Luminous Night. In fact, I have seen some comments where people pick it up, they're excited about it. Maybe it just isn't for them. Maybe it doesn't quite work with them. Maybe it's a little bit too tough to pull off. And so that's one of those deals where, you know, they kind of might struggle with Luminous Night, but they might gravitate towards and pivot towards something like this Lattafa here, which I apologize for not using the full name of it. I just know I'm going to continue to butcher it over and over again. But they would jump into something like this, which is going to be more pleasant, more mass-pleasing overall. You are also getting some vanilla out of the Lattafa a little bit, which is something that Luminous Night doesn't really have. So another slight difference there to kind of just move this one away a little bit. And this is, again, one of those instances where you might end up really enjoying this one because it is playing on that DNA, but adding their own twist. And I think that oftentimes can be desirable when we're looking for a clone, you know, maybe something that isn't super, super close to it because it might become redundant for you. Instead, you've got something that is heavily inspired by, but with its own twist. And I think a lot of times fragrances like that can do very well. So while I don't think this is a one-to-one clone and it doesn't fit into the league of, you know, just some of the most accurate clones out there, maybe that's not what they were going for. And I do think this one would have some utility if you already have Luminous Night. Maybe you don't feel comfortable wearing that one out, or maybe it's going to be very situational for you. And if you want something that plays on that DNA, just a little bit more mass-pleasing and less polarizing, then you might go for something like this. And also, not to mention, this is much more affordable and a lot easier to get. So let's go and talk about performance on this one. Again, we're talking an eau de parfum concentration here, and longevity on my skin has been a very consistent 8-9 hour performer here, which is really quite impressive given the price point. Some may expect a little bit more given that it's a pretty heavy scent all around, but that's kind of where I get, right there in that 8 to 9, which, you know, these days is kind of considered average now, even though realistically that would be above average. I would think a lot of times it's going to be in that 5 to 6 hour range as an average performer, and generally that's what you would get from most things going into a Sephora or Ulta and smelling them right. A lot of those men's designers that are going to be stocked heavily in those stores nowadays don't really do the best. So 8 to 9, whatever you want to rank that, that's going to be up to you. Not quite on par with Luminous Night. That one does perform a little bit better on my skin. However, this one stays strong until the end. You know, when I spray them both on side by side, here's Luminous, here's the Lattafa. They're both at equal strengths right now. So, you know, this one really doesn't start to die off heavily until you get towards the very end. So it maintains decent projection and decent sillage and kind of suspends itself in the air for hours at a time. Quality is also great. It's not the best quality Lattafa that I've smelled personally. I think there are some better quality ones out there. Also, it doesn't quite work its way up to Luminous Night. However, it's more than acceptable for a $30 cent, maybe a bit less than that, somewhere around in there. So ultimately, I can't complain. Now, this is something that the camera won't pick up, but I wanted to point it out if this is something that interests you. The bottle has this soft felt all the way around it. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but because you're probably not going to be able to see it. But yeah, that's what it has. So just kind of a cool feel, you know, something a little bit different. Just wanted to point that out if you were interested. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Is this a Luminous Night clone? I wouldn't call it a clone quite yet. I would call it heavily inspired by with their own twist. That being said, if you are a fan of Luminous Night, and you want something that variates a little bit, this would be one to check out. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. I will drop a link to this one down below for you. And again, if you want to have a chance of picking up something like Luminous Night or IDL Extreme by Guerlain or I mean, the list goes on. Lanui Delhomme Blue Electrique, Prada Luna Rossa Black below retail. All of those things, your best bet is to get subscribed to the mailing list and to watch the community tab every day on the hour. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.